Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to set off on a breathtaking, truly cinematic exploration of a land defined by sun-drenched coasts, towering Moorish cathedrals, and the incredibly captivating rhythms of flamenco. Yep, we're talking about Spain. This is a country where lunch can easily stretch late into the evening, and the night absolutely refuses to be rushed. But here's the thing. This incredibly relaxed, rich pace of life doesn't just happen by accident. It's actually perfectly balanced by world-class modern infrastructure, highly efficient public transport, and a deeply ingrained appreciation for community. And together, all these elements create what is undeniably one of the most envied, highest standards of living anywhere in Europe. So why does absolutely everyone fall in love with this place? Well, the numbers really speak for themselves. Year after year, Spain ranks as one of the most visited nations on the entire planet, constantly battling France for the absolute top spot. Millions flock here for the world-class beaches, the spectacular modern cities, and a vibrant culture that fundamentally celebrates life over just constant work. It's a place where ancient, millennial-old infrastructure sits comfortably right next to futuristic architecture. But to truly understand this irresistible appeal, and honestly why so many visitors end up wanting to pack up and move here permanently, we have to deconstruct it, one remarkable piece at a time.
Okay, let's dive into this with a staggering statistic: 175. Now, despite how fiercely independent Spain's regions are, there is one unifying institution that acts as the absolute heartbeat of the nation: the bar. Spain boasts roughly one bar for every 175 people, which is way more than any other country in Europe. But you have to understand, this isn't just about nightlife or grabbing a quick drink. In Spain, the bar is essentially an extension of the living room. It's the absolute core of their incredible social standard of living. It's where you have your morning toast, grab a midday coffee, passionately debate politics, and foster this amazing sense of community that actively fights off modern loneliness.
And actually, this communal lifestyle naturally gave birth to a massive global culinary phenomenon: tapas. They were born right in these very bars for the simplest, most delightfully practical reason you can imagine. Legend has it the word stems from tapar, which simply means to cover. Decades ago, clever bartenders would place a small slice of bread or cured ham right over a customer's glass just to keep the flies away. From that incredibly humble micro-level gesture, an entire world-renowned food culture was born. Today, tapas are less about the food itself and so much more about the act of sharing, ensuring that eating is always a highly social, collective experience rather than a solitary one. But to really get Spain, you've got to grasp its staggering internal contrasts. I mean, Spanish might be spoken by hundreds of millions of people worldwide, but within Spain's borders, completely unique languages like Catalan, Galician, and Basque thrive, and they are fiercely protected. Just imagine a Galician from the Celtic Northwest, surrounded by constant rain, jagged green cliffs, and the sound of traditional bagpipes. Their daily reality is completely different from an Andalusian down in the south, whose world is defined by blazing suns, centuries of Arab heritage, and the passionate stomp of flamenco. They carry the exact same passport, but they live in radically different, beautiful worlds that make exploring this country just endlessly fascinating. All right, let's look at the marvels of Madrid and Barcelona. We'll start right where the warm waters of the Mediterranean meet the city, Barcelona. The undisputed crown jewel here is, without a doubt, the Sagrada Familia. Over 140 years ago, the visionary architect Antoni Gaudí began this breathtaking masterpiece. He designed it by basically bending stone as if it were a living, breathing forest. And even today, massive cranes are still working among its soaring towers, meaning it remains an unfinished marvel. Just imagine stepping inside those heavy doors, looking up at columns that branch out like giant trees, and completely losing yourself in the brilliant, multicolored light filtering through the stained glass. It is an architectural achievement that literally takes your breath away and totally anchors Barcelona's modern identity. Moving inland from the coast, we find a remarkably different geographic reality. Madrid sits right in the exact heart of the Iberian Peninsula, perched way up on the vast Meseta Plateau. At 655 meters, or roughly 2,150 feet above sea level, it actually stands as the highest capital in Europe. Madrid is a city that never truly sleeps, supported by incredibly clean and efficient modern public transport that makes its amazing high standard of living possible. Residents shift effortlessly between the quiet calm of the lush Retiro Park, the unmatched classical painting collections of the Prado Museum, and the absolute roar of a vibrant nightlife that famously doesn't even think about fading until dawn. But Spain's infrastructural marvels aren't just sleek high-speed trains and modern museums. Just a short trip from Madrid, in the historic city of Segovia, you'll find a staggering engineering feat soaring 30 meters into the sky. We're talking about a 2,000-year-old Roman aqueduct crossing right through the modern city center. And what is truly mind-blowing here is that it was built with thousands of massive, heavy granite blocks, perfectly fitted together without a single drop of mortar. Not one. It is held up for millennia by nothing but flawless mathematics and its own sheer weight. It's a crazy daily reminder of the deep, ancient roots beneath modern Spanish life. Next up, let's explore Andalusia and its deeply layered history. And this brilliantly illustrates what I mean. Nowhere is the depth of that ancient history more apparent than in Toledo. Famously painted by El Greco under dark, stormy skies and wrapped tightly by the winding Tagus River, Toledo is universally known as the city of three cultures. For centuries, Christians, Muslims, and Jews lived here side by side, and every single narrow, winding alley still carries the physical marks of that historic coexistence. As you walk through the city, you're constantly passing from one era to another, climbing up the steep hills toward the majestic Gothic cathedral and the imposing, four-towered Alcázar fortress that watches over the plains below. Further south in Córdoba, this layered history takes on an even more breathtaking physical form. See, 1,000 years ago, Córdoba was one of the greatest cities on earth, glowing with vast libraries, paved streets, and lush gardens, while much of Europe was still, quite frankly, in the dark. From that golden age remains the magnificent Mesquita. Stepping inside, you find a seemingly endless forest of hundreds of iconic red and white striped arches that literally play optical tricks on your eyes. And then, shockingly, right in the absolute center of this massive Moorish mosque opens a towering Christian cathedral. It truly is one temple inside another, locked together forever in stone. The geography down in the south is just as dramatic as the history. Take the breathtaking town of Ronda, for example, a place that basically defies gravity. Ronda is suspended high up in midair, completely split in two by a steep gorge that plunges roughly 100 meters deep. The two halves of the town are connected only by a stunning, massive stone bridge that boldly spans the abyss. It's absolutely no wonder that a famous writer like Ernest Hemingway completely fell in love with this place, constantly returning to soak up the local wine, the dramatic vistas, and the incredible enduring courage of the people there. All right, let's shift gears and talk about coasts, islands, and sun. Spain boasts a staggering 7,800 kilometers of coastline. Very few lands in all of Europe touch so many radically different seas, and this vast aquatic border is a massive driver of the country's famous well-being and outdoor lifestyle. From the warm, calm waters of the Mediterranean to the wild, cold waves of the Atlantic, and right up to the rugged Cantabrian Sea in the north, this endless variety provides world-class beaches for literally every type of traveler. This incredible access to nature and sunshine is fundamentally why the Spanish work-life balance is so highly envied. It allows people to seamlessly blend their professional life with outdoor leisure. And this profound geographical diversity absolutely extends to Spain's archipelagos. On one hand, you have the Balearic Islands in the Mediterranean, places like Menorca and Formentera. These are defined by classic Mediterranean blue waters, quiet hidden coves, fine white sand, and ancient Posidonia seagrass swaying gently beneath the crystal-clear surface. But then, on the completely opposite end of the spectrum, scattered far out in the Atlantic, closer to the coast of Africa, you have the Canary Islands. The landscape here is fiercely extreme. We're talking black volcanic beaches, surreal lunar ash pits on Lanzarote, and Mount Teide in Tenerife, a massive living volcano that towers nearly 4,000 meters into the sky. Now, what's really interesting about this next bit is that it's going to completely shatter a massive global culinary misconception. Back on the Mediterranean coast in Valencia, we find a city boasting wide beaches, fragrant orange groves, and futuristic modern infrastructure like the breathtaking City of Arts and Sciences. But crucially, this is also the undisputed birthplace of paella. And here is the kicker. True, authentic Valencian paella is made exclusively with short-grain rice, local rabbit, chicken, and broad beans. It never ever contains seafood. It is always such a wonderful, humbling surprise for international visitors expecting a pan full of shrimp and mussels to learn how this deeply traditional land-based dish is actually prepared.
Moving on, let's experience the wild green north. Welcome to the Basque Country. This is a rainy, emerald green land facing the fierce Cantabrian Sea that feels absolutely worlds away from the dry, sun-baked south we were just talking about. In the remarkably elegant city of San Sebastian, which, by the way, is globally famous for its crazy high concentration of Michelin-starred restaurants and the stunningly beautiful La Concha Beach, you simply have to partake in the legendary Pinto experience. Here's how it works. First, you enter a lively, crowded bar. You grab small, exquisite culinary creations skewered on toothpicks right off overflowing wooden counters. You eat them while standing up, chatting with friends and strangers alike, and then you hop to the next bar. It is fast-paced, highly social, and an absolute cornerstone of their exceptional local lifestyle. You know, Spain is also a total masterclass in reinventing itself and drastically improving its standard of living through bold infrastructure and art. Take the northern city of Bilbao. Not too long ago, this was a gray, gritty, industrial working-class city struggling with closed factories and a polluted river. But then, the Guggenheim Museum was built, this gleaming, futuristic shell of curving titanium steel, playfully guarded by a giant dog sculpture made entirely of living flowers, single-handedly brought the city back to life. It transformed Bilbao into a premier global cultural destination, proving how visionary investments can completely revitalize a community's spirit and economy. Further west, in the rainy, mystical region of Galicia, we find a much older journey of transformation. For many centuries, millions of pilgrims have walked over 1,000 kilometers across northern Spain on the legendary Camino de Santiago. Exhausted travelers arrive from all over Europe, many literally collapsing on the cobblestone ground in tears as they finally gaze up at the dark, weathered stone spires of the cathedral in Santiago de Compostela. It's right here, inside that majestic cathedral, that a massive silver incense burner famously swings through the air on feast days, marking the emotional culmination of a grueling, life-changing, physical and spiritual journey. So after exploring the driest desert badlands in Europe that perfectly mimic the American Wild West, wandering through deep Celtic rain, marveling at emerald mountains where brown bears roam, and standing in complete awe beneath stunning Moorish palaces, I want to leave you with this question. With all these incredible cinematic contrasts, is Spain really just one single country, or is it an entire world beautifully disguised as a nation? When you combine this immense natural beauty with world-class infrastructure and a society that deeply, fundamentally values community and joy, well, it's absolutely no wonder everyone falls in love with it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.